here is a review of the new KSI album, All Over the Place. So I come into this album as a massive fan of JJ's content with the Sidemen and on his own channels. However, his music career to me has been pretty mixed, to be said. I really like New Age and I liked it when it came out, and Dissimulation, I've carried a few songs with me, but a lot of that album has just been forgotten. And KSI's singles leading up to this were really interesting, and it showed his willingness to step outside of the box, hence the name All Over the Place. So I think the best way to talk about this album is track to track, since it doesn't really have an overall narrative. So let's start with The Moment, which is, it's weird. Like, I do not like the opening of this album. KSI's singing has never been a strong asset of his. However, I will say that this album singing is much better than it was on Dissimulation, on tracks like Domain. And then we get into number 2, which I'm surprised wasn't a single. But now hearing Future's verse and KSI's verse, I could understand why. 21 Savage does a lot of the carrying in this track. However, I guess the positive is that KSI is learning that he can hang around with these sort of people. Now, Patience was one of my favorite singles going into the album, and it still works here. It's great to hear Polo G on such a new beat, which was really disappointing on hearing his new album. And Youngblood was a great chorus choice. Next we get is You, and You is very similar to Holiday in the fact that both are painfully generic, and You to more of a popular extent, and that's mainly because it sounds literally like Drake's Passion Fruit. I literally have no other comments other than You sounds like Drake's Passion Fruit on budget. Don't Play and Really Love, two other singles coming into the album, and I guess what I would say about them is that they're not terrible, they're pretty harmless. However, I think KSI is probably kicking himself for giving Lighter to Nathan Dawe, considering that's probably the best song he's made. Gang Gang is good, but I've never been a fan of J1, and his verse over here, it's just all right. Rent Free is a really good track. Other than maybe the mic on the chorus, which is a really rough, and you can hear the feedback of the mic in the chorus, KSI does a great job on his verses, and the beat, it's really interesting. I would love to see him maybe try beats like this. However, it goes into Madness, which is a good beat. KSI seems really aggressive on it, and it's a good drill song if a bit generic. And the next song continues that with Silly with Bugsy Malone. And I mean Bugsy Malone, that means you mean to go in drill or grime. And this is just a really generic song, and I do not like how KSI keeps on ad-libbing. And KSI keeps on ad-libbing, explaining his wordplay, which is just hilariously bad to me. No Time is a very generic Lil Durk song, and KSI singing on the chorus was actually okay for me. I thought that maybe if him going into that higher register would be to the detriment of the album, but over here it was completely natural and okay. No Pressure has KSI putting on an accent, and he sounds like a high-pitched Zoo. And considering I really did not like Loose with his song with Zoo, my feelings on this are right about the same. And get this, the final song on a KSI album sounds like a song that could have been on the new 21 Pilots album. Yeah, and considering that I gave the album such a generic review and such a bad review, and to this day, I actually think I may actually lower that review, you can think my thoughts about this album. Because overall, it's just generic, with some points being really rough, with a few enjoyable tracks in the middle just to clean the palette. I'm feeling a 3.5 out of 10 on this album.